Hi, I'm Trish.
And I'm Keith.
And we're here today to talk to you about Active Disciplines, Part 2.
We have talked about in an earlier session that there are background disciplines and active disciplines. Background disciplines being management disciplines in the household, and then active disciplines are those times when you have to step into a situation and bring correction and clarity for the sake of your children. And we always try to remember that whatever kind of discipline it is, it's discipline for the benefit of the child.
You know, we often wonder as parents, what's the difference between childishness and foolishness? Is this something I should spank for? How do I deal with this? Well, I'd like to begin today, before we give you the 4 practical tools that we're going to talk about, I'd like to talk about the idea between the difference between these two. What is childishness and what is foolishness? Well, the Bible says that a fool says in his heart, there is no God. So that attitude that stems from that, the rebellion, the hardness of heart, that's foolish behavior, and that needs discipline, stronger discipline than childishness. Your children are playing and they run through the house and break a lamp. That happens all the time. So the way you deal with these two situations are very different.
So we're going to talk to you today about 4 more active disciplines. We have spoken to you about spanking and how to do that in a way that is helpful to the child and for his benefit. And today we're going to add 4 more active ways that you can step in and make a difference for the kids.
Okay, and the first one is logical consequences. Those are situations that have a direct connection. The punishment has a direct connection to the situation. So, for example, your child is riding their bike outside and you're always saying, oh, remember, you have to put your bike away when you're finished, but it's always being left out. A logical connection to that situation would be either the child doesn't use the bike for a week or 3 days or 2 days, depending on the age, or perhaps something happens to the bike and he can't use it. So then that would be a sad logical consequence, because then it involves a lot more to get it going. But you see the idea? The connection is between the offense and the consequence. There's a direct connection. Another example of that is, I remember our son Patrick running through a meeting building. There were a lot of chairs that were being put away, and Keith had said to him, don't run in this building. But you know, little boys, 4 years old, that's what they love to do. Well, he went head on into another little guy, and so he was crying and he was hurt. Well, that's all that needed to happen there. The logical consequence, the situation took care of itself. He was hurting, and he understood through his own pain that he did the wrong thing. So being mindful of the offense, and is there something that's already present that you could connect to that offense, and so then it's taken care of without you bringing in a third party kind of discipline.
Yeah. In other words, there's a logical connection between what they did wrong and the punishment they get.
Right.
Yeah. Another way, this is the second tool. That was the first one we're talking about today, logical consequences. The second one is this: show your disapproval. And I'm going to give you a little test right now. This is real quick. I want everybody that's listening and watching this video to do this thing. Hold your hand in a circle just like this, just like you're saying okay. And I would like you to do, as I do this, I would like you to put this circle on your chin. Now, how many of you put it on your cheek instead of your chin? I don't know. You better be looking around the room at each other, but here's the thing. What we say, our body language speaks more powerfully than our words most of the time. 70-80% of the time, people are reading our nonverbal communication. And so when you correct your kids, if there's something you disapprove of, show it. Don't just say words, but show your disapproval. Now, a frown can do it. Put some tone in your voice. For example, if you're saying no to your young son because he's doing something wrong, don't say it like this. Don't say, now, Johnny, no, you know we shouldn't do that. You say, no, Johnny, no. And there's a little more, it's clearer. You don't send two different messages. So you've got to show disapproval when you disapprove. So your words have to show it, your expression needs to show it, your tone can show it. And I'm not saying go yelling at your kids, but I think if you can connect those things so that the disapproval is shown, it will be helpful.
I agree. Okay, so now we're on to number 3. We've talked about logical consequences, showing disapproval, and number 3 is loss of privilege. And you know, as your children are growing older, and this is as they're moving into their older childhood years and in their teen years, they are gaining more and more privileges, but they're also gaining more and more responsibilities. And we like to connect the privileges to the responsibilities. And one thing you can do that helps you as a parent trying to discipline is make that connection for them. For example, if your child is invited overnight to a friend's house, you can connect that privilege with the responsibility of your child maintaining an orderly room for the week. And as your children grow, especially, you know, when a car is involved, when they're getting those kind of responsibilities into adulthood, it's very sensible and logical to say, okay, you're getting a lot more privileges and there's a lot more responsibility that comes with that. And as you look at each circumstance, you'll be able to make those connections so that they'll fit for your child and your family.
And you know, it's easy to overdo those things, but one thing I remember is that if you took the car keys away from your kid for one day, that was major to him. It's pretty minor to us, but it had a great effect. So think in those terms. Now, we've talked about logical consequences, showing disapproval, and loss of privilege. So the fourth one we want to talk with you about right now it's a positive one, and that is rewards. And how do we give good consequences to our children when they do well? And there are 3 types we just want to cover really quickly.
Okay, the first one is it's fun after hard work. You know, actually that's a biblical creation concept because the Lord did it. He worked hard and then he rested. And just bringing that principle into our homes brings a lot of order. It's like vegetables before dessert. But if you work hard, then you can have fun together. You know, one thing we like to do when everyone was at home is we would all clean the house together and then go out and eat together. And that was really fun. We'd work together and then we'd eat together. So bringing in this concept of fun after the hard work is a very successful one.
The next thing is FaceTime. Just having one-on-one time between a parent and a child. The kids love you. They really do. I know sometimes it may not seem that way, but they love you. And if you take time to be with them, if you take time to spend with them, it makes a great difference. And so what I want to encourage you to do, Patricia used to have a tea time with the girls. And it was one of the things they got together and had their little tea. And with the boys, she would do a little milkshake or something like that for them. And we would go for walks. We would play basketball together, the boys and the girls. And so having time with your kids, FaceTime, is a great reward.
And then the third one is tangible rewards, earned rewards. And so when we think about that, we want to think about, okay, if I'm giving a tangible reward, is that bribery? So let's talk about the difference between bribery and a real reward. The difference is that in a real reward, there is something produced on the child's end. He's worked for something, he's put effort into it, and you have something at the other end that you can say, good job. Bribery is when we try and manipulate behavior or attitudes or whatever through the carrot that's hanging in front of them and say, you be good and you'll get this carrot. So just evaluate what you do with those different criteria so that when you're giving a reward, and tangible rewards are good because children like to work towards things. They love the levels of achievement that can be attained. So you do want to use those. You just want to be careful that it's not a bribery situation.
And basically what you're saying is we try to bribe behavior, but we don't want to bribe behavior. We want to reward achievement.
That's right.
That's what you're saying. So here's a quick wrap up of things we've covered. We've talked about altogether 5 active disciplines, the first one being spanking. And then in this session, we've talked about logical consequences, showing disapproval, loss of privilege, and then rewards.
Parenting is worth the investment you put into it because the effect is eternal. Thank you for being with us today.